You don't realize how much light it is until you get here. Hi, everyone. My name is Sona. Just a real quickly about myself. I was 17 years old when I came to the United States from Yerevan, Armenia. Had the regular challenges that all the immigrants have. My mom made me go to Glendale High School, even though I already graduated from high school in Armenia, because she said the only way for you to learn, really truly grasp the language, you need to be in a high school environment. So I went for a year. It was extremely challenging. The challenge of learning English is something I understood and I accepted and I struggled with it. But it's only later on I realized that preserving Armenian language is the challenge here for our youth. For me, it's never been an issue to know who I am. I lived in Armenia. I breathe Armenian. You know, I saw nobody but Armenians, so it was never a problem for me to preserve my identity. I knew who I was. When I came to the United States, it was not a problem for me to remember who I was. I didn't have issues of assimilating because I was 17 years old already. So majority of my life has been spent in Armenia. I went to college. I came here to USC for my bachelor's degree in English because I wanted to make sure that I fully grasp the language. Then I got married, 2 children, master's degree, and then came back here to USC for my doctorate degree in education. Education has always, thank you. Education has always been a passion for me, but it really started when I was in high school and I was struggling as an immigrant, and one of the assistant principals who you may know, her name is Arakelyan. She's currently a superintendent of another district. She really took me under her wing and she said, I've been where you've been. I understand the struggle of an Armenian young woman in the United States, and I know you really want to be successful and achieve, and I really want to help you, but please make sure that you help other young kids, Armenians or non-Armenians, but specifically since I do represent Armenian culture, she said, make sure that you do the same for them. So I kind of made it a life goal for me to make a difference for all the other kids, and I wanted to be an educator then. When I became an educator, I've been in public system for 16 years now. Honestly, it is when I had my own children, my daughter is 16 and my son is 10 now, when I realized how much of a struggle it is to keep your Armenian identity. My children who were born here, I'm still having the biggest challenge of making sure that they learn the language, they learn Armenian. English is not an issue. They go to school, they speak English, they write English, they hear English, they think in English. So for me, it's a challenge to make sure that they do not assimilate, that they do remember who they are, they don't lose the sense of where they come from, because I genuinely believe if you have a strong foundation and you know who you are, you know your values, you know your morals, you know your culture, if you do have a strong foundation, you could be successful in any other environment. And I think the reason, because I was, in a way, successful in American society because I had a strong foundation in who I was, and I never forgot that. And I do consider myself American, of course, but I'm Armenian American, and I'm proud to represent both equally and be a respectable part of both communities and both cultures. So when I became an educator for the past 16 years, for the past 10 years, I've been with Glendale Unified School District. When Salpi contacted me and asked me to present, I was very honored. My first question was, how do I talk about anything innovative when it comes to my district and it comes to learning English language? And she said, well, you do have an amazing program at Glendale Unified that I don't think they have anywhere else, and we do. And that is called Dual Immersion Program. And by the way, we have teachers from Glendale Unified here, so thank you for being here. And they do know very well what I'm talking about. So at Glendale Unified, for many years now, we have a program which is called Dual Immersion Program. Of course, it is not specifically only for Armenian language, but since I'm here talking about Armenian culture, I would like to focus on the Armenian aspect of it. And it is an incredible program. It started a few years ago, and the reason the program started because there was this huge need and thirst from the community, from our Armenian families, to keep the language alive at home, to make sure that their children, as much as they learn English, they also learn Armenian. And community spoke, parents were taking their kids to Saturday school to learn Armenian. They were taking them to private lessons to learn Armenian. The community is doing everything they possibly can. The parents are doing everything they can to make sure that part of the history, part of the culture is preserved in their kids. So Glendale Unified, years ago, with collaboration with many groups, came up with this program, which is now called Dual Immersion Program. And what it is, basically, we have 26,000 students in our district, and we have many schools. 2 of our elementary schools have this program, which is offered for students kindergarten through 6th grade, and it is what it says, dual program. So in a day, a student goes to class, and throughout the day, 50% of instruction is done in English, and 50% of instruction is done in Armenian. And we are talking about all academic subject areas. So the student will learn Armenian language, will learn Armenian history, but we'll also learn math in Armenian, we'll learn science in Armenian, we'll learn history in Armenian. And then they will, throughout the same day, they will learn English, and they will learn English literature, grammar, science, math, history in English. And this is taught by both fully credentialed teachers, teacher who is credentialed to teach the subject matters, but also a teacher needs to be credentialed in the area of Armenian language. So it is absolutely talking about innovation. I find this to be extremely innovative on our district part to even take that step and offer this to our families. Not only we have this in 2 of the elementary schools, but then that continues to 2 of the middle schools. And what happens, the students go to middle school, and in elementary school, while the focus was bilingualism, when they get to middle school, the focus is fluency. Not so much now we know you're bilingual, but now let's focus on fluency, let's focus on literacy. So it's pretty much just emphasizing making sure students do not forget what they've learned in elementary school. That doesn't stop there. You go to high school, and Armenian is also offered at high school as a foreign language. I think it's a huge accomplishment. I think it's absolutely wonderful to, as an Armenian woman, but also as an educator, to offer this to our students. Parents are extremely happy because you don't have to take now your child to outside of school on Saturday. It's right there, given by credentialed teachers. And so you have your children growing up in United States, growing up in LA, but have the opportunity to also not only learn Armenian language because they were born here, majority of them were born here, they don't have any other way of learning, but they also preserve the culture. Because another thing we do in our district is we value diversity. So there are many instances where our culture is celebrated as well as honored. Tragedies are honored, like April 24th, Glendale Unified was the very first district who have accepted that day in commemoration of Armenian genocide, and the schools are closed on that day. So innovative, yes. Trying to understand culture, yes. Helping our culture to preserve what we have, yes. So I'm extremely happy that I was able to have this opportunity to come and talk about this, because I don't think many people who don't live in Glendale or who don't know much about our district know that we have such an amazing program. We also have organization Mariami and Davidian, which they've also been working for years with Glendale Unified School District, and they offer offer Armenian classes after school in our schools. So again, the parent does not have to go outside of the child's school to help the kids to learn language, to learn about culture. It happens immediately after school for 2 hours a day. You have teachers teaching these kids language and literacy and grammar and cultural identity. And that is only possible because our community expresses the need and desire to preserve what we have. And as a mother of 2, and my kids are growing up in United States, and I want them to be successful members of American society, but I also want them to never forget who they are and who they came from, because my parents left everything back home so we could have a better future here. But I never forgot who I am. I never forgot where I came from. I never forgot what my mission in life would be. I never forgot my morals and values. And unfortunately, nowadays with youth, you have to be very careful because there's so much temptation. There's so many outside sources that it's so easy for our kids to just go with the flow and assimilate. And a lot of times I talk to our parents and I tell them, why don't you talk to your children in Armenian at home? I talk to Armenian families because I could see the parents themselves are struggling with English. So I say, why don't you just talk to them in Armenian? They say, well, because we're afraid if we talk in Armenian at home, they won't be able to speak English. And I said, but you know, that's a myth, because if you speak to them in your language, their foundation will be stronger. Therefore, it will be easier for them to learn the second language, and they will know who they are, and they're never going to, they will learn English. Please don't worry. They live and breathe English. We're here, we live here. You need to worry about them not forgetting Armenian, not learning English, because that will come naturally to them. It's this fear in our community, it's this fear with our parents that if they talk too much Armenian at home, or if they expose them to too much Armenian, then they're not going to be productive citizens of American community. But it's so not true. And me being in a position as an educator, and me being in a position as a principal, touching so many lives on daily basis, I want to make sure that I do my job well, and I do make that difference. And I'm there for all of our children. I'm there for all cultures. But I personally have something more to offer to students who are Armenian, because I have that history with me and I have that understanding, which I have to say makes it also easier for me to understand students of other cultures, because I believe if you are yourself culturally aware of your own culture, that it makes it easier for you to understand and respect other cultures as well. Because, you know, we all have our similarities, and no matter where you come from, if you look at it, ultimately the foundation, we all believe in same universal things. We all believe in family, in kindness, in being good, in making a positive difference. So I don't want to talk more than I need to. Just wanted to say thank you for inviting me. Thank you for the opportunity. And hopefully with this little presentation, I was able to give you a little glimpse of what we do as educators in our district, in our community, to make sure that we preserve our culture, to make sure we preserve our language, and to make sure that we give that strong foundation to our Armenian youth. Thank you for having me.